Alright, this is a showcase of Adam Warlock in Battlegrounds, and I feel like overall he's pretty dang good for it. I think he has some pretty nice fight times, and his utility is also really good for it as well. This is Masochism over time, so basically whenever the opponent gets a debuff on them, they'll purify it, and then a timer starts, right? So with Adam Warlock, you want to parry immediately so you can start the timer, and then after that, during that timer, you want to activate your sovereignty counter, right? Because then you can keep the taunt up for the entire fight, which is pretty dang sweet, right? So now the counter is active and we have the taunt up, so he's going to be pretty dang aggressive for the entire fight, which is pretty nice. And here we drop the SP2 just to build our combo up a little bit more. And yeah, the damage is looking pretty nice now. That was about a 20,000 SP2 on the final hit. And yeah, this is just this is where we want to be, right? We want to be just controlled here. There, I activate the stasis pod because he was playing a bit passive, so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to not risk it so I can keep my combo up and maintain my sovereignty counter. And yeah, that fight is done in about 46 seconds, which is pretty good because it was a rank 4 Nimrod, right? And yeah, now we have this Penny Parker fight, and Penny Parker is, a very annoying auto-block character, but Adam Warlock has permanent unblockable. So yeah, it's just a pretty fun time with him. So because the Penny was running Recall Masteries, I could just activate the sovereignty counter immediately, which is pretty nice. And here is just where we want to be, right? The fight is in our control. We have the sovereignty counter active, and we can just start dishing out some pretty nice damage. And oh my gosh, this fight just ends in a flash, I feel like. So here we just go for the combo hits. We're almost at the SP2, and now we have the Fury buff active. So here we drop the SP2. And yeah, the fight is just over, man. We don't even have to do the last hit because it just ends right before that. And that was 30 seconds for a Penny Parker, man. Absolutely incredible stuff, man. Just so good. And now we have this Overseer as well, who once again is a pretty annoying auto block character, but you know what? Adam Warlock just counters auto block super well. In my opinion, I think he is the best auto block counter in the game just because of his very potent unblockable. So yeah, Adam Warlock is just super good for auto block characters, man, and you're gonna see it right here as well. He just ends this fight in a very good amount of time. So the counter is active. We have our precision buff active now, so yeah, we're gonna be critting a lot. And here we're about to get the Fury buff as well, so we drop the SP2. And yeah, the fight is just where we want it to be now, 100%. Here we get a nice crit of 28,000. He drops the SP1 here, and I can just retaliate with a heavy attack, which does a lot of damage there as well. So yeah, this fight is just going perfectly, man. It is just going so well. Here he drops the SP1 again. There I go for a heavy attack, and it almost gets him down, but then that hit gets him down. So yeah, that was about 45 seconds overall, which is not bad for sure. Now we have this rank 5 future Ant-Man. This is only a snippet of the fight, unfortunately, because, my phone ran out of storage, mid-recording, which is a bit unfortunate, but yeah. I ended up redoing the fight, and I got a full version, but isn't as good as this, so I thought I'd just show this anyway. But yeah, you can see here that the fight is just super good. Right now, we are definitely in control of it. And yeah, here we activate the sovereignty counter once more. And yeah, we drop the SP2, we get some nice crits there. Another massive crit right there. And yeah, the fight ends in about 53 seconds, which is pretty dang solid. Actually, 56, sorry. But yeah, still pretty sweet overall. And now here is a different version, but this one is the whole entire fight. You're going to see what we do at the beginning and how we maintain that sovereignty counter. So yeah, future Ant-Man is super annoying, right? This is a rank 5 future Ant-Man. This is no easy fight. So we just want to go for the sovereignty counter activation after we did the parry to trigger Masochism, and now the fight is in our control once again. So here we can just bait out the SP2. I don't know how to dex it, so I activate the stasis pod for safety. And yeah, that was a very good decision to do because I just don't know what I'm doing with that dex, right? So yeah, pretty good utility there for Adam Warlock to activate the stasis pod manually. And yeah, the first counter is almost done, and we've had no struggle at all. And there I get hit, unfortunately, but it's no biggie, right? I can just build the counter up once more. And yeah, now we have the first counter complete, so we can just wait for the next one to trigger. And here we're just we're doing pretty good. We're doing very good. Adam Warlock is doing this fantastically. Here the counter starts again. He purifies the taunt, unfortunately, because I mistimed it. But yeah, the counter is now active again, so we drop the SP2 with the precision buff up. And yeah, we get a nice crit. He got left at 1%, unfortunately. But yeah, just one more hit and the fight is done in about 63 seconds, which isn't too bad at all. And now we have this Warlock fight. And this is a somewhat utility showcase as well, because there is one moment in this fight where I do get clipped, but you're going to see how I save myself there. So yeah, here we go for the Masochism timer activation with the parry, and then we can just go back and activate our sovereignty counter. And yeah, here the fight is just where I want it to be, always. And yeah, now we can just, go in, start doing our damage. We can't rely on the crit from the special attack though because of Warlock's ability. And you can see here, get shocked, right? But here I activate the stasis pod and it gives me energy protection. So yeah, I just purify the shock there. and now I can just like regenerate some of my health as well. So yeah, now the fight is just going pretty well. We had like a bit of a mistake there, but now that it's gone, we're doing pretty fine. So we can start going for some more basic attack hits. And yeah, now the fight is just pretty much over from here. We get a nice crit there to end the fight, and that was about 38 seconds, which is pretty dang solid. And now we have Adam Warlock versus Guardian. Guardian feels like a sleeper defender because he has auto block on like every special attack, which is pretty dang annoying, right? And yeah, like that can just be pretty problematic for some characters who are special attack reliant. But Adam Warlock just has his unblockable, right? So we don't have to worry about that at all. And we can just like also just ignore his armor up as well because of our true damage. So yeah, just a lot of ways to counter Guardian here. And yeah, it's just it's like a pretty simple fight overall, I feel like. And yeah, this fight's going pretty well. We're almost done with it. Basically, like I know he has a lot of health left, but like once we get the Fury buff, it's kind of just over from there. So yeah, here we drop to SP2. We get a nice crit of 24,000. And yeah, the fight's just like where we want it to be. We almost have the counter complete. So that'll give us a Fury buff so we can just start doing even more damage. And yeah, one more hit and that just ends the fight in about 41 seconds, which is pretty dang solid. And now we have some like more utility focused matchups. Like these times are still pretty dang solid, but I more want to like put an emphasis on the utility of Adam Warlock in these fights. So this right here is a Hyperion, right? And Hyperion has some very annoying power gains. So you want like to power control him, or you want to like, make him throw specials, and that's what Adam Warlock does, right? He just like makes the opponent throw specials with his like aggressiveness and his taunt. And yeah, you're gonna see right here, this Hyperion just gets like absolutely controlled by us. So yeah, it's just a very straightforward Adam Warlock fight because you know what? The taunt just does so much work, man. It is so good utility wise, and it like trivializes some pretty like usually annoying matchups. So yeah, this right here, a very straightforward Hyperion fight with Adam Warlock just because of how good he is at like controlling fights. So yeah, that was about 38 seconds, which isn't too bad at all. And now we have this Iceman fight, and this Iceman fight is pretty cool because we used the Stasis Pod here. The Stasis Pod gives him an energy protection buff, right? And so at the beginning of the fight, we get a cold snap, but we immediately purify it, and then we're just good to go. So now here we activate the sovereignty counter, and yeah, now the fight is just like where we want it to be. We purified the cold snap, so now we can just have that energy protection buff for the rest of the fight, and now we can just like do our usual Adam Warlock things. So yeah, pretty like straightforward fight overall once you like purify the cold snap, and that's just like another use of the stasis pod. It lets you just like take away some energy damage debuffs and just makes it for like a pretty easy fight overall. So yeah, here we just bait out the SP1, we just tank all of it, and yeah, here we can just go for an SP1 here. We don't get the stun because we don't have the precision buff active. But yeah, the fight is just like over from here pretty much. So yeah, just a pretty straightforward fight, and he did it pretty dang well. So that was about 40 something seconds, which isn't too bad at all, but I just wanted to like put a focus on the utility side of that. And speaking of utility, now we have this Gore fight, and this fight is just a good showing of his unblockable because Gore is pretty annoying because he like built up buffs, right? And so like you can't really parry him because he'll just inflict a lot of damaging debuffs like through your block. But Adam Warlock really hates blocking, right? Because it sometimes messes up his sovereignty counter. And yeah, basically he's just really good for Gore because he doesn't like worry about like taking a blocked hit because you'll always be unblockable. So you'll always have your openings. And yeah, it just makes it a pretty straightforward fight. Here I kind of like, I do the wrong rotation. I really should have gone for the SP3 here. So this fight should have been much faster than like it is. I just like really mess it up. But yeah, like that's on me. I still just want to like show how he's good for Gore because he can just like not care about the block at all. But yeah, like this fight could have been about 60 seconds or so, but I just messed it up big time because I didn't go for the SP3. But that's just on me, right? Like, all these fights, they weren't perfect, but they are still good showing like what he can do, right? So yeah, here we go for the sovereignty counter once more. We drop the SP2, we get some nice numbers. We don't get a crit, unfortunately, but yeah, that would have done a lot of damage if it did crit. But yeah, here we can just, bait out the SP1. And yeah, now the fight is just where we want it to be pretty much. We can just, keep baiting out the SP1. But yeah, like I said, could have been much faster, but even then, it was still a pretty solid fight because, like, we took no damage from him, and usually Gore is a pretty, like, punishing character. So yeah, that was about 73 seconds. Could have been like sub 60 for sure, but yeah, that was just like our fault for playing pretty bad. Now we have this Gallon fight, and Gallon, Adam Warlock has a great interaction with him, but I didn't get to record it here, so I'm gonna have to make it like a separate video because it is such a cool interaction, man. So yeah, here we want to go for just the sovereignty counter once again. And Gallon, you're going to see he built up his planetary mass, right? And I wanted to record this because it's such a cool interaction, but I couldn't show you it here today, unfortunately. So now this is just like a regular damage match, like, a simple standard Adam Warlock fight. So yeah, here he's about to enter the harvest, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna use the SP3, see what it does. And yeah, I didn't realize that it like removed all of his planetary mass charges. Yeah, there like it was getting kind of like iffy on the timer, so I was, you know what, I'll just throw the SP3 and it'll just end the timer, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. So yeah, now the SP3 is thrown, it does some pretty nice damage, and yeah, the fight is just pretty much over from here. He loses all his planetary mass, he drops the SP2, and I was like, you know what, I don't want to like block this. So I was like, I'll just use the stasis pod. So yeah, that was a good showing of the stasis pod right there. And yeah, now the fight's just pretty much over from here. We do some nice 14,000 mediums, and yeah, that was about 60 seconds, which isn't too bad at all. And that'll be it for this Adam Warlock Battleground showcase. Let me know your thoughts on Adam Warlock. Me personally, I feel like he's still a great all-around character, a very solid Battlegrounds character for sure, and just like solid quester as well. I feel like he just has it all in my opinion. And yeah, that's about it for me.